guys, my name's Natalie and welcome back to Crime Vlogs Weekly. This week we'll be talking about the case of the Collarbomb Heist, also known via Netflix through their documentary series Evil Genius. So with this week's case, you're going to be scratching your head in disbelief. When I watched the first episode of Evil Genius on Netflix, I was shocked to say the least. The footage of a man walking into a bank isn't something that would likely cause much attention. That is until he walks up to the teller and says that he has a bomb strapped to his neck. Born in Warren, Pennsylvania to parents Rose and Harold Wells, Brian Wells grew up with a sister called Jean. Brian had a fairly normal childhood, and back in 1973, when he was 16 years old, he would drop out of his high school. Dropping out of Erie's East High School, he would then go on to work as a mechanic. Fast forward to 2003 and Brian is working as a pizza delivery man for a pizzeria. And at 46 years old, he seemed to be a guy who kept himself to himself and he didn't really have that many friends. On August 28th, 2003, the pizzeria got a phone call at 1:30 p.m. ordering a pizza. This call was made from a nearby gas station payphone and the owner of the pizzeria couldn't quite understand what the person was ordering, and so he actually passed over the phone to Brian. The delivery of the pizza was going to 8631 Peach Street, which was actually only a few miles away from the pizzeria itself. And for anyone interested in the actual location, it's just the end of a dirt road, and I think the only thing there is a transmitting tower. Upon arriving at the location, this is where it's believed Brian was fitted with the collar bomb. We'll get into the finer details a little bit later on, but it looks as if Brian did have some involvement in the planning of the heist, the bank robbery, and not just as a victim. Anyway, at this location where he was delivering the pizza, he was met by 4 individuals who would strap the bomb to Wells's neck. The individuals would instruct Wells to say that this was done by 3 black men and that he was being held hostage by them. Brian would then walk into PNC Bank in Pennsylvania and he had a short cane that he walked with, which was actually a shotgun in disguise, and he also had quite a large bulge on his chest. In the actual footage of the bank, you can see that the bulge on his chest is unusually large. It's something that would definitely draw attention. Maybe not really instill any fear or suspicion, but it would definitely be very bizarre to see. So Brian walked up to the teller and he passed the teller a note which said that it was to gather all of the employees who had access codes to the vault where all the money was, and that they would need to fill a bag with $250,000. And they only had 15 minutes in which to do it. Brian Wells at this point then lifted up his shirt to show that he had a bomb on him, that it was legitimate. But the teller said that they couldn't access the vault in such short time, but he did manage to get around $9,000 off the bank. And his demeanour was quite unusual. Even in the footage, you can see that he's like sucking on this lollipop. Considering he's got a bomb strapped to his neck, he doesn't seem particularly panicked, and the teller didn't really think he seemed panicked either, considering that he did have this bomb attached to his neck and that it could have gone off at any moment. So Brian then drove off from the bank's location, and police obviously caught wind of this because the bank let them know, witnesses let the police know that this was happening, and they caught him somewhat further down the road. He was parked up in a nearby parking lot, and this is footage that you can see on Netflix through the documentary, and they show the full footage in all its gory detail. I have to warn you that if you do watch it, I am going to put a disclaimer there that you do see the bomb go off and that it's quite brutal what happens. And for me, even someone who has like a morbid curiosity towards these like crime videos, to serial killers, murders, whatever, and crime scene footage and all that jazz, this was something that really took me aback. It really blindsided me, and I kind of wish that I'd known prior to watching it that it was going to happen, because I was completely shocked after it happened. So yeah, a disclaimer, if you're going to watch it, you do actually see the bomb go off. Now sadly, Brian would die from his wounds. He had a fist-sized hole in his chest from where the bomb went off, and the police didn't really make any attempt to get the bomb off him. They were more concerned about the pedestrians around, clearly, which was a worry because they didn't obviously know how explosive this bomb was going to be, so they were just prioritizing the immediate area, getting everyone safely out of harm's way. The bomb went off 3 minutes before the bomb squad could arrive, so in hindsight, I mean, it was good that the bomb squad arrived when they did, because if they'd arrived any earlier, then that could have gone off whilst they were trying to disarm the bomb. Now, much to the disgust and horror of Wells's family, and obviously this is something that if I was in their position, I would be horrified too, but the police had to remove Brian's head to get the bomb off. Police found in Wells' possession a lengthy 9-page handwritten guide, sort of like a treasure hunt, of what Brian would need to do, including robbing the bank and doing a few other tasks in order to get the bomb off his neck. And the police actually, you can see it in the documentary, the police actually retraced his steps and tried to attempt to do all the stuff that he was going to do in order to get the bomb off his neck. And it turned out that this treasure hunt was too lengthy in the amount of time that was needed for the bomb to be removed without going off. So regardless of how fast Wells would have gone, he would have never got the bomb off him before it went off, which is really sad to think about, because if Brian had involvement in the heist, I don't think he was aware that this bomb was going to be real. So with that being said, let's rewind back prior to when Brian had the bomb placed on his neck. The 4 individuals that were there at the time, I'm just going to read this from a piece of paper that I've got. It was Marjorie Deal Armstrong, Kenneth Barnes, William Rothstein, and Floyd Arthur Stockton. And apparently this plan all came about when Marjorie, Kenneth, and William were sort of discussing how they could make more money. Now, none of these individuals were hardly what I would call upstanding members of society. They all had pretty murky backgrounds. Marjorie, despite earning exemplary grades in high school and earning a master's degree, she had a lot of mental health issues, so much so that in 1984 she shot her boyfriend Robert Thomas in the chest, I think 6 times, whilst he was lying on the sofa. She also has a few partners who died of mysterious circumstances as well while she was with them, and so a lot of people are saying that she could have been a serial killer. But I'm not quite sure how much evidence there is of her being responsible for the deaths, but yes, if she was involved in their deaths somehow, then she would be classed as a serial killer. Kenneth Barnes was a retired television fisherman, but he was also a crack dealer, so I mean, he obviously maybe had a really relaxed and good early life, and then whether he was dealing crack on the side or considered that as like a retirement opportunity, I don't know. And William Rothstein dated Marjorie between the late 60s, I think it was, and early 70s. Obviously, he was one of the few partners that didn't meet a grisly end at the hands of Marjorie. Stein was implicated in a murder in 1977, and Floyd was a convicted rapist and a fugitive that lived with Rothstein. But yeah, none of these people are good by any means. So Marjorie would devise a plan with Barnes to steal the inheritance from her father's estate. Apparently Marjorie's father was not spending his money in the way that Marjorie wanted to, and that he was spending it so much so that I don't think she would have had much inheritance. This is from Marjorie's point of view. Now, Barnes said that he would do this, but that he would only do it for $200,000. The plan was then devised to do a bank robbery to steal $200,000 in order to pay Barnes to kill her father. And it seems that Marjorie was the mastermind behind this from the get-go. Interestingly, Wells did seem to have a connection initially when police searched his property after the bomb had gone off. He had a list of people that he knew, which included sex workers. Now, this was a surprise to his family and Jean that he was seeing sex workers, and one of the sex workers in particular had a connection to one of the 4 individuals. Jessica Hoopsick was known to Kenneth Barnes for dealing crack, and Barnes also used his house as a place for sex workers to operate from. Now, what might not never be known is the reason why Brian was chosen to wear the bomb, and the fact that the bomb was real and not fake. Wells was part of the plan in some way, shape or form, but I don't think he really knew that there was going to be a real bomb used and that he was going to be the bait. Stockton, who's the actual only remaining one alive, said that there had been a struggle between the four of them and Wells, and that it was Stockton that would actually attach the bomb to Brian's neck. The reason why I think Brian was involved and not necessarily hostage was that he still went ahead and, you know, went to the bank, and his demeanor, I think, was probably that of someone who thought, okay, maybe this bomb isn't real, or that I just need to do these few things and the bomb will be disarmed and no harm will come to me. I think if he was literally someone who was delivering a pizza, had no involvement whatsoever, he probably would have panicked, and there'd probably be a lot more panic in the way he reacted. And, you know, Wells didn't really react that much until he was found by the police. And I think he realised that this bomb was actually real and was going to go off. Before we go into the reasoning behind the events and my thoughts, there are actually two other deaths that are connected to the case. One of Brian's co-workers, Robert Paniti, actually died 2 days after the events of the bomb going off, and he died of a drug overdose, so it's not necessarily something that he would have been connected to, but it is unusual that he only passed 2 days after the events. And then you've got James Roden, whose body was found in the freezer of Rothstein's own garage. Rothstein then apparently wrote a suicide note, and this said that he had no involvement in Wells's death, but he didn't actually commit suicide, and the police don't think he was even intending to. I think it was just a case of trying to plead his innocence, and I think he was hoping to make people believe that he was innocent and had no involvement by writing a suicide note. In January 2005, Marjorie was convicted and charged of James Roden's murder, the body in the freezer of Rothstein's garage, and it seems as if Rothstein was covering for Marjorie, and Marjorie said that she was mentally ill at the time. It's also believed that James Roden could have known about the plan to rob the bank, and that's why he was killed, because he had prior knowledge. In April of that same year, she bargained with the police to reveal more information over the Wells case, and in return for information, she was transferred from the correctional institution she was at to a minimum security prison in Cambridge Springs. She admitted that she provided the kitchen timers that would be fitted into the bomb, and that Rothstein was the actual mastermind from the very beginning. She also said that Brian Wells was involved in the plan. Barnes on September 3rd, 2008 would plead guilty in conspiracy to robbing a bank and to aiding and abetting. He was sentenced in December of that same year for his role in the crime. It was announced in July 2006 that US Attorney Mary Buchanan would find Marjorie and Kenneth guilty of the crime committed, and that it was actually Marjorie who was the mastermind behind it all. Rothstein and Wells were both named in the crime as co-conspirators. Buchanan said that Wells had involvement in the crime, but that he wasn't aware that the bomb was actually real. So as the US Attorney states, it does seem that Wells did have involvement in the heist, but I'm not quite sure why they really used a real bomb to begin with. I mean, if Marjorie was playing mastermind, then I can only think that it was sort of his sick and twisted like influence. Bearing in mind she does have a history when it comes to being involved with men who have sort of mysteriously died under suspicious circumstances, and it also seems as though she was treating all the guys in that group as sort of puppets, and that she was influencing what they would do. And that is everything that I have on the case. Do let me know in the comments below what you think, and make sure to tell me anything that you know research wise that you found on the internet, or make sure to also let me know what videos you want me to cover in my next video. Make sure to like and subscribe my YouTube channel, making sure to click that bell notification to be notified of when I upload my next video, and I will see you guys next week. Bye guys!